The Huawei P40 Pro has huge shoes to fill in place of its predecessor, which is the Huawei P30 Pro. Now the P30 Pro already has so much going for it, be it design, the overall UI, camera experience. It ticked off almost everything we've wanted in an Android smartphone. Now that the Huawei P40 Pro is the first P-series device to launch without Google's core services, is it a deal breaker? Now we beg to differ. This is our review of the Huawei P40 Pro. The Huawei P40 Pro is powered by the Kirin 990 5G chipset. It has a 6.58-inch OLED Full HD Plus quad-curve overflow display and has a 90Hz refresh rate. It has 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. Now when it comes to the camera, it has a 50MP ultra vision main sensor, a 40MP cine ultra wide sensor, 12MP super sensing telephoto sensor, as well as a 3D depth sensing sensor. On the front, you will find a 32MP autofocus sensor that is capable of taking 4K selfie videos. There is also an infrared depth sensor. The phone is capable of 5G connectivity, and you will find a USB Type-C port on the bottom of the phone, complete with NFC, dual 9L SIM, eSIM capabilities, and Wi-Fi 6+. Now the Huawei P40 Pro's design took a rather huge jump from its predecessor. It now has a slightly larger display at 6.58 inches with an even higher screen-to-body ratio of 91.6%. Now surprisingly, the curved edges doesn't make the phone awkward to hold at all. I've tried phones that have curved edges, but they will often mistake my palms for a slight touch gesture. I mean, it's pretty annoying, and I'd have to get used to it by holding the phone in weird hand gestures. Thanks to the quad-curve overflow display, the curved edges on the phone gives it a natural yet luxurious feel, making it an extremely comfortable phone to hold. Now the Huawei P40 Pro does have a thicker camera bump compared to the P30 Pro, but because it is also wider, it wobbles less as it covers more surface area when it is laid flat on its back. Now if you're putting a phone case on the P40 Pro, admit it, you're going to do it anyway, it will also further help eliminating any wobbling too. Now in terms of physical buttons, nothing changed. The power and volume buttons are still on the right side and they feel firm and tactile when pressed on. After being spoiled with 120Hz refresh rate screens, I'd say 90Hz is still an acceptable refresh rate for a daily driver. The display itself is already magnificent to lay eyes on, colors are vivid, images are sharp and clear, and thanks to the quad overflow display, the viewing experience is made even more immersive. Every transition and animation on screen is just really nice to look at. Another thing I really appreciate Huawei for is that they have finally included customization for their always-on display. I mean, I'm really glad Huawei finally gave their customers what they want. Instead of a boring old clock, get full colored images and animation decorating your screen when it's not in use. Now the one gripe I have with the display is the notch on the top left corner. It is huge. There's the under-display 32MP selfie sensor, which is capable of 4K videos. Yes, I get it. But they added the IR camera and a proximity sensor within the notch too. I mean, it doesn't look too bad, but I just thought Huawei could have moved at least the proximity sensor to the top part of the device, like they did with some of the Nova series devices. That would have made the notch a tad bit smaller. Upon unlocking the device, I immediately felt that the fingerprint scanner is much faster and more accurate than before. The quad overflow display on the sides are incredibly smooth to the touch. I've always opted for navigation gestures instead of the navigation bar, and I must say I've never felt a smoother side edge on a phone before. On top of that, EMUI 10 brings new edge gestures. If you swipe from the edge towards the screen and hold it, you can actually bring up the multi-app bar. Now think of it as a quick shortcut panel to get to your favorite apps faster. Alternatively, you can also hold the floating window and drag it to the edge of the screen for split screen display. So what about Google? I didn't feel left out from not having Google. To me, it's all about getting used to. Yes, Google is a big company and we've grown accustomed to the services they offer, but Huawei is showing that it's okay to live with a phone that doesn't have Google. You can still take great photos, get your work done, send messages, share all your memes, and still access Google services, just with a different method of doing it. Huawei's phone clone did a spectacular job at transferring all my files and settings over from the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. All my favorite apps were intact, and the best part was, I did not need to re-log in to them one by one. Huawei's app gallery is safe to use because it has 4 layers of protection, so it won't be that easy for anyone to inject malware into your device. Now there's also the quick app feature where you can immediately use the app without installing it. Now to further expand your storage, Huawei is also giving the P40 series users 12 months of 50GB quota on the Huawei cloud. This lets you back up your files and easily move across Huawei devices in the future. Another thing I was interested in trying out is Huawei's MeTime, a video calling feature that is exclusively for Huawei users only. Apart from being able to video call smoothly in Full HD resolution, I noticed it consumes less data as well. Now this is a big plus, especially for those who are on a limited monthly data quota. The feature also included optimization for video calls in poorly lit environment. Now this is absolutely necessary because other video calling apps might just show a black screen if you're in the dark. Huawei's MeTime may currently only be available on the EMUI 10.1 version, which is on the Huawei P40 series and Huawei Mate Pro, but the company will release an update for the MeTime feature to be added to older Huawei devices in the near future. The Kirin 990 5G chipset on the Huawei P40 Pro does an amazing job of multitasking. It doesn't matter if I'm launching an app, rapidly switching between them, or conjuring up multiple apps in split screen view. I've never once had a jagged app or lagging screen when I'm navigating through the phone. I expected no less from the Kirin 990 5G chipset because that's the epitome of how a flagship smartphone should perform. The Mali G76 MP16 GPU on the Huawei P40 Pro performs excellently when it comes to games. There is no screen tearing, graphics are smooth, with game elements and details remaining crisp. It's often the small things in a game that truly gives the game its experience, and the P40 Pro does very well in carrying that across. I was really impressed with the Huawei P40 Pro speakers when I tested them out with Tweaker Core's Crash and Burn. Now, despite having just one downward firing speaker, the P40 Pro aces with bass management while retaining high levels of clarity. Now the vocals doesn't get muffled when the bass drops, and the best thing is, even on 100%, there's not one bit of audio distortion. Now volume wise, it is a little soft. I can barely hear anything at 20%, so I'm always hovering at like the 40 to 50% volume mark. Now the camera UI on the Huawei P40 Pro is minimal and user-friendly. Buttons are laid out nicely and they are easy to understand. There is no shutter lag when you're capturing a photo, even the viewfinder is smooth when you're panning looking around for your subject. Autofocus is quick and the camera is able to determine where, what or who the focus subject should be. Photos taken with the P40 Pro are still top notch, and DxOMark's 128 scoring for the phone's camera is no joke. Videos are sharp and more importantly, they're stable. Without gimbals, your bare hands could do panning and dolly shots with no problems at all. The footage will come out detailed and smooth as if it was shot with a gimbal. Thanks to the OIS module on the P40 Pro, the telephoto lens is superbly steady even when you're 50 times zoomed in. Now it may not be the clearest, but you can still definitely make out what you're zooming into. Seeing how we are stuck in the MCO, I've tried my best to test the smartphone's 4200 mAh battery by emulating my daily life in two settings, Wi-Fi only and mobile data only. Now here's what my daily routine looks like in MCO. I start my day at 10 AM with a fully charged battery and end my day at 1 AM on Wi-Fi only. I managed to close the day with 24% battery left, so that's definitely acceptable since it managed to last till I got in bed. Now what about the mobile data? I start my day with 100% and end the day with a mere 5%. I thought the battery test had ended there, but to my surprise, I plugged in a Huawei P40 Pro that had 5% battery left to charge before I went for a shower. 20 minutes later, I was greeted with a P40 Pro that had 50%. To sum it all up, the Huawei P40 Pro is an incredible smartphone with an amazing Leica camera system. Photos and videos come out great regardless of the time of day or the environment you're in. I mean, sure, there isn't GMS, but Huawei's mobile services is already doing a great job paired with the rapidly expanding Huawei app gallery. The Huawei P40 Pro also comes with 5G connectivity, thus future-proofing it for when 5G technology is implemented nationwide. Priced at 3,899 ringgit, the Huawei P40 Pro does seem like the complete package, with performance, 5G, and mobile photography in the bag. Huawei has definitely packed the P40 Pro with a ton of hardware and software prowess to make it a worthy successor to the Huawei P30 Pro.